IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and in today's hot seat we have Hassan Sayyed. And he asks a very interesting question. It's a question that I asked myself many times in the past as well. So Hassan asks, I have always been an obedient, ready to help kind of person who never raises his voice, even if it seems necessary. But now I feel I'm being used as a doormat. Why is it so that the submissive are the ones who are subjected to more pain and suffering, whereas it is the complete contrary when it comes to the ferocious and cunning people? Hassan, I love this question because it is a fundamental truth that we have in our minds, right? We end up living in this spectrum. A spectrum is basically where there is a 0 and a 10, and we believe that we must be either a 0 or we must be a 10. You will notice that you have mentioned both. I am completely submissive while the others are completely ferocious. And we don't realize that there is a whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in between the 0 and the 10. It's a range that we can operate on. And we often don't realize this because we have been taught how to behave by society and with our parents. So many parents will grow up and say that, Hassan is such a good boy. He behaves like this, he does that. Right? He takes care of all of us, such a good boy. And that keeps ringing in our ears. That praise keeps ringing in our ears. At the other extent, we have this ideal that we create for ourselves. That come what may, I will do the right thing in this manner. And this is what I believe the right way of doing things is. And we fall into this trap because we don't then realize that we can sometimes press the accelerator and go from 0, which is, like you said, submissive, to maybe a 4 or a 5, where you don't have to be cunning, you don't have to be ferocious, but you can learn to communicate your point, you can learn to communicate your desires. See, there are 3 things and 3 habits that are missing amongst people who feel like doormats. The first one is the ability to say no. And we've done lots and lots of podcasts on the ability to say no. What it means basically is that I am now beginning to value my time. Every time you say no, what are you saying? You're basically saying yes to yourself. And there's a beautiful podcast that I've done on this in the past where every time you say no, you're technically saying yes to yourself because you're putting a need for yourself ahead. Now, there's nothing wrong in putting your need ahead because when you put your need ahead, you are growing instead of just helping everybody around you grow. So there are times when you look after others and then there are times when you look after yourself. And knowing this is very important. So one of the things that I tell my clients to do who suffer from not being able to say no is this week, I want you to say no to 4 people. 4 people. If your dad comes and says, Hassan, please just book these flight tickets for me. Or Hassan, please, can you go down to the market and get this? And if you had something better to do at that point of time, learn to say no. I will not be doing this. And then instead, give them an alternative. I am not free, but my sister is free. I am not free, but I can order it in for you using Swiggy, etc. So there are many ways to go around this problem of not being able to say no. The second is not being able to ask for what you want. See, what we often think about as people who go and achieve what they want as ferocious and cunning people is because they're not willing to take no for an answer. Now, we don't have to go to that extreme, but we must at least learn to put our point across. When you want something, do you have the ability to communicate it to the person? Or do you not have the ability to communicate it to the person? Are you hemming, hawing and saying that, why should that person take all this trouble, all of that? Or do you start wondering about why am I putting my need in front of others? You must learn to ask for what you want. There's a beautiful paragraph in the Bible. And actually in every single religion, there's actually a variation of this, which is ask and it shall be given unto thee. So what you want, you have to ask for. If you don't ask, how will you ever receive it? Very often we believe that everybody will understand what our needs are. No, Nobody's going to understand our needs unless we communicate it. So learning to communicate what you want is the second part and the second habit that I want you to achieve, which means that for the next 1 week, I want you to ask for something. Ask for 3 things from your family members or from your friends. Ask and see if they actually give it or not. Okay? Now that doesn't mean you become cunning, doesn't mean you become ferocious, but just ask. And the third habit that ties all of this in together is the inability to ask for help. Very often people who are doormats feel like that because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel appreciated because they never ask for help. When we ask for help and somebody helps us, we feel appreciated. Like, wow, that person did this for me. But if we are constantly giving and constantly giving and constantly giving, how will we ever have any left over for ourselves? So what's important is to learn that you can ask for help, that your desires, your wishes, your time is as important as the other person's. And if you don't do that, you're going to be sunk. So Hassan, think about all these 3 aspects: the ability to say no, the ability to ask for what you want, and the ability to get help or ask for help. So these 3 habits together combine and will take care of this problem that you have. I always believed I was a doormat till I realized that this is what I need to do. And once I started doing this, believe me, the relationships, they did not crumble and fall, but they grew stronger. They increased. And why does this happen? Because now people realize that, wow, this person's valuing his time. I should also value this person's time. And we no longer become doormats, but instead we live together like a community. And ultimately, that is what I would wish for all of us to be able to do. If you want to get featured in the next episode of the Habit Coach Hot Seat, check out the link below, click on it, and fill up a form. Ask your question. Put as many details as you can so that it becomes easier for me to answer. I get lots of questions. I try and answer some of the ones that I feel are the most burning needs. So please put in your question and hopefully see you on the hot seat. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
Hey, everybody, let me tell you a little bit about what happened on the IVM Podcast Network this week. We've had some amazing stuff, right? I don't know if you're aware of the redoing or the rebranding of the Traveling Professors show. We called it now Smarter with Sid, with Siddharth Deshmukh. This week he examines Netflix getting into e-commerce, and will this affect how Amazon's dominating the space? Also, let me give you another quick hits to join up on. So on Cyrus Says, Cyrus was joined by Olympic equestrian Imtiaz Anis, and Nishan Burla from the Triangle Offense podcast showed up on Thursday's Cock and Bull to talk about the NBA Finals. On Nankari, Sadaf and Archie were joined by Keshav Chaturvedi of the Tere Mere Raste podcast. On Storytellers and Storytellers, Vineet talked to Ashim Mathur from Dolby. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram to keep up with what's going on the network. And with that, let me also just finally thank our sponsors. They're what makes things possible. We'd like to thank Seat, Cred, Global Victoria, Bank of Baroda, Intuit India, and Lenovo. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you, Begin the Journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Cheers.